my mom was sick. She got diagnosed with this rare disease and she died 3 weeks later. Seeing that portrayed in the media made me think I was doing it wrong, because in the media, there's all these moments that you have where it's like you have all these conversations you've always wanted to have and da-da-da-da. It's not like that when someone's dying. My mom was like, I'm thirsty. Can I have ice chips? You know what I mean?
What were the coping mechanisms outside of mentioning, like talking, comedy?
Yeah, like talking, comedy. I mean, I'm in therapy. I'm sure everybody's shocked to hear that. I'm just agnostic. I don't really know. I'm just more curious about all of it. I would rather believe that my mom was watching over me. I was gonna go join her in a paradise after I died. I would absolutely choose that than I'm this aging bag of bones and blood that's gonna continue to decay until I become like totally and then
Well, when you put it like that. What's up, y'all? Today's guest is a TV personality, reporter, columnist, author, comedian, Kat Timpf. She's absolutely hilarious. We just met right before this episode, and I feel like we rolled into the conversation very easily. She shares her story losing her mother 10 years ago and what her grief experience was like. What's it like becoming a new mother? The difference in her and her mom's beliefs religiously and how that ties into it all. And it was interesting before having this conversation, this is not a political conversation by any means, but she is associated with Fox News, and I always hear how people put someone in a box. You don't even know the person and they're associated with one network or one side of the team, if you will. And this conversation is the great equalizer, the one thing we all share, which is death. We are all going to die. We're all going to lose our loved ones. And that's what it's about, bringing that all together and hearing someone's story about a real experience. So I hope you enjoy this episode. She's such a blast. We laughed the entire time. We have the commonality of humor and dark humor, if you will, so you're going to get plenty of that. But as usual, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I want to thank you all for always tuning in and for helping me grow this show. It means the world. And as usual, I will stop talking. Let's get into the show. Kat, thank you for coming here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for meeting for the first time, stranger, to talk about death.
Yeah, I love to talk. I probably wouldn't be here if it was another topic.
Really?
It's one of my favorite topics to talk about.
Yeah, you mentioned before that you're kind of taking a podcast break. Was that accurate?
Yes, because I'm very pregnant right now, currently.
Wait, because your baby can't talk yet?
Well, no, just because I'm busy. I was on tour up until just last weekend, so I've done nothing to prepare for this baby that's coming in like a month and a half.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're the first pregnant guest.
Nice.
So congratulations.
Nice.
It's been 4 years.
Yeah.
We're waiting for this moment, but thank you for being here. So tell me more about why you like talking about death, because obviously I do. And what does that mean to you?
So my mom died 10 years ago of a rare disease a week to the day after my 26th birthday. And there was just, it's something that nobody talks about, really, or people talk about in a fake way. Like they'll say, oh, so-and-so has passed on, they're in a better place, blah, 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 blah. It's these useless surface level conversations. And then when it becomes an intimate part of your life, when someone in your immediate family dies or someone you're really close with dies, you realize how unhelpful that is. And then in addition to it being this devastating experience, it's also super isolating. Mm-hmm. So I kind of became obsessed with wanting to talk about it as much as I could to try to counter that. So I have 2 books that I've written, and I talk about death in both of them.
Really?
Yes.
And so that first book you written, excuse me, that was after your mom as well, right?
Yes. So that first book, I wrote a chapter called Live, Laugh, Die, because the theme of my first book is basically using comedy to get you through trauma, and just how much humor kind of got me through it. Because, and you have a dead dad, so you understand whenever you mention that to people, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Mm-hmm. And then the vibe in the room changes.
I like that switch, to be honest.
You do?
I enjoy those moments of making people. To me, it's just kind of breaking the ice.
Yeah.
To let them know I'm comfortable.
Yes.
And also humor to me has been a big thing, so I totally...
So how do you do that to break? Because I'll tell you how I do it.
I mean, I don't have a form. It's kind of improvised, but now my friends know I'm comfortable, so whenever they just like tell them for me, we have a weird PR, non-podcast PR about death. They're just like, oh, his dad died in 9/11. I'm like, I'm David, by the way.
That's 2 things, though. Like, that's 2 contentious things, like death and 9/11.
I know. It's a double whammy, so I lean into it a little bit.
Yeah. So I used to get really uncomfortable, and when people would do that, I'd be like, oh, it's okay, And so now I always say, when they do that, I'm sorry, I say, it's okay, you didn't kill her.
Same.
Yeah. And then they laugh, and then it's like, oh, it's like, you didn't do 9/11, and we're good.
I mixed it up. I'm like, are you related to Bin Laden? Are you on the plane? What'd you do? But it's stupid. It's not even a good joke. But it's in the moment, people definitely have that reaction, which is why talking about it to me is so important.
Yeah. I write in my first book, I tell the story of, this is before I was comfortable with it. So my grandma died 3 months after my mom died. And I write about the scene of this, because it was just so crazy. It was the same church, the funeral. And then there's like some family drama between my dead mom and her siblings that still always continued. We ended up having to sit at the table at the wake with the funeral guys who embalmed both of them.
Oh,
And I
jeez.
got shit-faced or whatever. And then I had to head back to New York because I was supposed to be a guest on Red Eye, which I was just trying to break into TV, and I didn't want to miss it. And I was flying Spirit, so it got canceled. So I had this crazy travel day that was like, I'm talking trains, Greyhound bus, all this stuff to try to get there. So I got to Fox I still have my suitcase and everything, and I'm in hair and makeup. And then the woman doing my hair sees my suitcase and she's like, "Where were you?" And I'm like, I'm at grandma's funeral. And then I hoped that she wouldn't ask any more questions. And then she did. She was like, "Oh, is it your mom's mom or your dad's mom?" And I'm like, "My mom's mom." And I'm like, "Please don't ask the next thing." And she's like, I'm like, "My mom's." She's like, "Oh, it's how does your mom feel about it?" And I wasn't yet in the position to be like, "Well, she's not feeling much." You know what I mean? She's not. I was like, "Well, she's also dead." And then the whole room, and then you feel bad because you feel like you have brought down the vibe in that room. And that happened over and over again. I mean, I would do a segment. I did a segment on TV with my dad where we did like a cooking with friends thing. We had a really great segment, and they were like, "We would love to bring your mom down." Again, so tempted to be like, "I don't think that you really like your makeup team's for the task of stuff." But then but when you realize it's about making other people comfortable, you kind of just, and also it's hurting people because they're going to go through it if they
what's
haven't.
hurting people, not making them comfortable?
Yeah, by continuing this ruse of talking about it only in a flowery kind of way. Because if they either they've gone through it and they'll get it, or they haven't and they're going to go through it. So
we talked about before. It's the one common denominator, and it's so weird for me. It comes off as insensitive, but I think I mentioned in one of these last episodes. Like the shock value makes sense, of course, but to me, when something happens, I'm just not shocked. I'm not like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me."
Yeah,
I really genuinely. Even that innate emotional feeling of shock makes sense, but I don't know. I think that comes down to just brushing this shit off on the side when we know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that also, I mean, my mom was sick, so this is different, but I mean, got diagnosed with this rare disease and she died 3 weeks later. So it was kind of not slow, but not fat, but I had time in the hospital where I knew she was going to die, not very long. But I think also seeing that portrayed in the media made me think I was doing it wrong, because in the media, there's all these moments that you have where it's like you have all these conversations you've always wanted to have and da 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 da. It's not like that when someone's dying. They're like, my mom was like, "I'm thirsty. Can I have ice chips?" You know what I mean? And I was like trying to do these things that I thought I was supposed to do. And it's just, no, it's like they're dying. Like they don't feel good. They're dying.
Yeah, it's ugly.
So people will ask me still, because I was one of the first people. I mean, I wasn't 12, but I was one of the first people of, in my friend group or people I know to have a parent die. So people will express that to me, whether they feel like they're doing it wrong. They feel like they're being around a dying person wrong. And it's like, no, it's just this. It's ugly. That's what it looks like. There's nothing pretty about it. And I write about this in my second book, where my mom and I did have a difficult relationship. We were very close. We had a good. It wasn't a bad relationship, but because she was very Catholic and I ended up stopping being Catholic when I was maybe 17, it was difficult. It was really difficult on that aspect, and that never got resolved. And I wrote about that in my second book, which was scary to write about, because I thought people would attack me over it, and they did.
So you're right.
I was right.
Wait, specifically because you just stopped believing?
Because my second book's about, binary thinking, and I think religion is full of that, like heaven and hell, and it's a sin or it's not a sin. And I think that also getting to know people, just like in terms of politics, but getting to know people of different religions, and it kind of erases some of the stereotypes. Like studies show that a lot of atheists think that they're better people than Christians, and a lot of Christians think they're better people than atheists, but there's huge gaps between what's real and what's not real in terms of the beliefs about the other group. I do have a lot of friends who are really devout Christians that are not judgmental people, because you couldn't be judgmental and be my friend, really.
That's kind of the same. I won't be able to deal with that.
Yeah. So I mean, but for me, there's also this. I think people and I've talked to a lot of religious people as well, and opening up about this has allowed them to ask me questions who they see it as a choice of you've chosen not to believe in God, which for me it's not. I would actually rather, and I'm just agnostic. I don't really know. I'm just more curious about all of it. I would rather believe that my mom was watching over me and that I was going to go join her in a paradise after I died. And that all I had to do was like follow these rules and believe in this. And I'd be good. Like, why wouldn't I choose that? I would absolutely choose that than I'm this aging bag of bones and blood that's going to continue to decay until I become like totally unfuckable. And then, and then after that, it's worse. I die, right? Like, I don't want to believe that.
When you put it like that.
No, but I don't want to believe that. Like, of course I don't want to believe that. Of course, when you say that your way's like better for you, I completely agree. So being open about that has been helpful for me, but I've also been attacked for it a lot, that I'm not religious. People get very upset about that, but it's not a choice in my view. I would rather be religious than not. I know I would be happier.
So when you say it's not a choice, is it more just a feeling?
Yeah, because, and also my mom dying further convinced me, and I wasn't religious then, but she followed all the rules. She was very, very Catholic. She was also really vulgar. She's a very interesting person. She was like a good hang too. So she wasn't, but she truly was a true believer. And if she followed all those rules and she wanted nothing more than me to be Catholic, couldn't she do something from the other world to kind of communicate with me
At this point, like
at
10
this
years later,
point and be like, it's all real? Like, couldn't she somehow, because I'm open to that, couldn't she let me know? And I'm kind of disappointed to have not heard from her. I haven't done ayahuasca, but I probably kind of want to.
Well, you're speaking my language because I've done DMT. It's a whole other rabbit hole, but ayahuasca is something I plan on doing. But in regards to what you said about your mom, I can relate to because I've had experiences that can go either direction. Like I personally believe certain things happen. Like that's interesting, but I'm kind of logical and spiritual at the same time. But I'm open to it. And I asked that question, like, Dad, it's been 23 years.
Yeah.
How come you haven't given me a no-brainer, like, what's up kind of thing?
Yeah.
And then I've heard different theories as to why he hasn't. If you want to talk about that thing.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, people, I've talked to a lot of mediums, this or that, and I believe in that. I don't believe in every medium. I think there's scam artists all over the place. But in regards to some people are telling me, sometimes it's not meant for you to receive that. You might not need that. And I got this weird message from some woman on Instagram. She messaged me on my personal account. She knew about the podcast. And initially when I get that, I've had people like, tell me something and like, hey, can I come on the podcast? I'm like, all right, well, like, the fuck.
Yeah.
And this woman just messaged me this voice note. I still haven't heard from her. It hasn't even shown she read my follow-up message. But she sent me a message that I don't need that right now. Even though it feels like I do, it was something along the lines of that when he will come to you when the time comes, when it's truly the right time for a message, and it's not going to be any doubt. It's going to happen, but when it does, you will know. But leading up to this, you don't need that because your best trait is curiosity. And she was saying, if since you are such a curious person and that is what led me down this path, if he showed up sooner, I would have stopped seeking. Even though part of me is like, if he showed up more, I feel like I would have kept seeking more. But it goes both ways. But maybe if all that's real, maybe there's a bigger reason as to why some people get messages and some don't.
Yeah, and I've really tried. I mean, shortly after she died, the Pope was in New York, and I was like, she would really want me to go see the Pope. So I did. I found a way to like go to the Mass, and I went, and I was crying a lot. And I haven't cried like that before, and I haven't cried like that since. And I recognize it as it being a thing that a lot of people would recognize as something like that, of it being a sign of like, oh, she was there, or this or that. Because it was truly, I never experienced like full cleansing, intoxicating kind of crying. But then it's also could be explained by the most basic of biological impulses too. Like
yes.
That's the thing. So how do people, a lot of people who, I don't understand, a lot of people who think they say, oh, I feel this, I feel that. I'm like, how are you sure? Or are they just only confident in saying that? Or are they really sure?
I think maybe it's a mix of both. And maybe some people might just be like, I'm the type of person that, me personally, I just wouldn't say it just to, oh, that happened, that's what it is. I'd be like, I don't know, maybe. Yeah. But I think there is a knowingness there. And at the end of the day, it's kind of just whatever meaning you give it, I think creates the reality, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can't tell what's what, because something might just be a sign, and that just might be it just happened. Like,
right.
How do you tell? But I think it's just a knowing.
Yeah.
but then your knowing can still be wrong. So I'm on both sides of the bus.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I think it comes down to what meaning you give it.
Yeah. And I just don't know.
So what do you believe? Are you still just kind of
I don't know. I don't believe. I have no beliefs.
no beliefs?
I have no, I mean,
Theories?
I don't. I really don't. And that's why I'm a little obsessed with death, is because I really want to know.
Does it matter to you in regards to your process with your mom about the afterlife? Is that even a thought about if she's around or she's nothingness or?
I haven't felt anything from it. So I don't, it doesn't help me when people say that she's watching over you. Cause I'm like, is she?
Is
Like,
she?
I don't know that that's true.
Sometimes I don't want my dad to be always watching me.
Yeah, I don't, there's some things I don't really want her to
It's a little
see.
bit. I thought that the way sometimes I'm doing things, I don't want that weird. But sometimes I
Yeah.
was like, this would be a weird time if she was watching me right now.
Yeah. And I don't, and I'm about to have a baby, right?
Mhm.
And I've thought more about it because I think it's normal if you're pregnant to think about your mom, and I have thought about her more than because after 10 years, you don't think about it nonstop every day the way you do right after someone dies. But I thought about it a lot more than I have over the past 10 years. But then you also think of other things, like when this kid gets the ability to talk and notice things, how do I explain, like, where's your other grandma?
That's the weird part of this whole experience of people when people die. It's reopening.
Yeah.
Almost. I don't know where you are. You can tell me where you are on like that quote unquote healing journey, if you will, the woo woo stuff. But it's those first, and now you're a mother.
Yeah.
It's like that, and then I think about that with my nephews. They don't get a chance to meet Grandpa David.
Yeah.
And he's just a memory of that they've never had.
Yeah.
So that just reopens things, and it's a weird experience.
Because I don't know, because I know that what I was told about death when I was younger was heaven, hell, Catholic, da 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 da. Like, that's not what I plan to do. Which again, I've been so attacked for that too. I've been so attacked for saying that I'm not going to do that. People get very triggered by that. But that to me is the opposite of saying that my kids will not be allowed to be religious,
right?
Or nobody will ever take them to church. My husband might want to take them to church just because he thinks some of that's good for kids. I don't know what I want to do. I don't have the baby's room set up yet. Like, can we just chill the fuck out? You know what I mean? Like,
heaven and hell could come after the walls are painted.
Yeah, like I don't. The crib is in the box. Like can we chill? But it's also like, it didn't work for me to have it be given to me as the only option. And you have to do this, and you must do this, and you're bad. And if you don't believe this, you're bad. And I grew up really scared of the devil. Truly thought was doing bread and water fasts in the 4th grade.
Why?
Because for the souls in purgatory. I was like and look at what happened to me now. So it's it's
this
not
might
like
be purgatory. I don't know.
It's not like It's not like I'm taking that off. I'm not saying no religion for the kid. I'm just saying the way that it was forced on me was not healthy for me in a lot of ways.
I'm with that. I mean, I'm whatever my child. I mean, if we just talked about me, I don't even know if I have kids, but kind of I'm open to exposing like this is out there.
Yes, absolutely.
And then what
do you want to do?
What do you want to do?
That's kind of my plan.
And I feel like every time something gets forced down your throat, even especially with religion, I've seen so many people like end up going the opposite direction, kind of what you're saying.
Me.
Like there's a little bit of rebellion because it's forced. Anything forced, like how is that religion if you're going to force it and really dictate whether it's your kid or someone's life? And the fact that people react to you like that, I don't understand that, because what does that literally have to do with the person that has their own beliefs?
Oh, I get that. I feel so bad for your baby that he's not going to know Jesus. I'm like, my baby can know Jesus if he wants.
Yeah, of course.
I just, do you not see? And also, you only know this because I told you.
Right.
I'm being open and vulnerable about the fact that I'm confused and I don't know, and I hope to have belief in something at some point. I really do, and I'm actively seeking some kind of belief. Why are you attacking me? It just doesn't help.
Sorry, I wonder if that has to do with the way they were. Maybe they were forced and they feel the same need to do the same thing.
Maybe. I mean, for me, it was really hard. I mean, part of that is what drew me away from it, was like loving people, caring about people that didn't believe in it. And it was a couple things, but one of them was like, oh, I love so-and-so who's my friend who's not religious. I wouldn't send so-and-so to eternal damnation. I don't think they deserve that. Mm-hmm. And so would God really do that? And also, sounds crazy maybe, but I was having sex with my high school boyfriend, right? Mm-hmm. And I couldn't stop. And it's like a normal thing. It's like a normal thing, you know? But I felt so bad. I was like, and I would go to confession and tell the priest I had sex with my boyfriend. And he would tell me to pray like whatever many Hail Marys. And I'd be like, whew, like, okay, so now if I get hit by a car, I'm not going to hell. And then I would be so scared if we did have, which we all inevitably would have sex again. And I'd be like, I have to get confession or I'm going to go to hell if I get hit by a car. And it's, you know, I'm the teenager. And I'm like, and then I eventually was like, I don't feel like I deserve to burn in eternity for this.
Yeah, that's that God-fearing aspect.
Yes.
Like, I understand, like, maybe I'm completely misinterpreting it because I probably am, but I understand maybe the fear aspect of something just greater, but why does that have to be fear?
Right.
Why is it all, like, it's so heavily fear-based that I don't personally resonate with this, like, diving into that fear. And also when you just confess something, you're good. And then I feel like you were doing that publicly. You're kind of confessing not any sins, but you're confessing what you believe, and people are damning you for that.
Yeah.
How is that Christian?
I don't know. And I'll never stop. Like I always feel like I need to confess things because I think I grew up with confession where it's like.
Does that make you feel better?
It does. I think that I don't think I even realized that till now. You might have just made me realize that, but it does. Because I do. I'm like, yeah. Okay. Like I'm not. Also, I just have a lot of anxiety, so I feel like lying is just not.
What kind of anxiety?
About everything. Like I always feel like I did something bad. And I think, again, that's because, I mean, we were raised, I mean, we had St. Benedict medals over all the doorways of our house to keep the devil out. Like the devil was a real threat.
You were in it.
And it was like, he can come for you. And I was so scared of that.
So what, you said at 17 you stopped believing, something happened at 17?
Yeah, it was just kind of, I mean, I went away to school and the school I went to was a very conservative school, actually. I had a full scholarship there. It was a conservative school. Most people there were religious. The first semester, I was going to church. I was still long distance with the high school boyfriend, still having sex and feeling bad about it and whatever. But then we broke up. I started kind of seeing this drummer guy that was there who wasn't religious. And I was like, he's cool. I was like, I don't think he should go to hell. And some other people that I met that weren't religious, I was like, they shouldn't go to hell. I think that was probably part of it. Because I mostly only knew religious people before. And the ones who weren't, I felt bad for. I was like, they're going to go to hell. I was like, oh, I'm so glad I'm not them because they're going to go to hell and that sucks. Like,
you believed it.
I believed it. Yeah. And
I mean, who knows? Maybe.
Right. But maybe I am going to hell. I mean, I could be, I guess. But I can't wrap my head around. I can't wrap my head around things that I see as affecting no one, which the sexual stuff, I'm not scandalizable. I don't care what you do. And I see it all as victimless. Like if you are whatever, slutty, who cares? If you are whatever, it's just not even worth talking about because it doesn't affect, it's your life, it's your body. I can't bring myself to even judge you or have that be a statement about you as your worth as a person, let alone to say that you should go to hell forever.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think everyone needs an answer. I feel like we're just always seeking answer. Anything we don't know scares us. So because I think there's a lot with religion that is nice and this or that. But when it comes to, again, like you said, that forcing and this is the way and there's no other options, that's what kind of immediately turns me off. I don't know if I'm just a nonconformist. But whenever they're saying this is the only way, like, how do you know? Yeah, I know there's the Bible. I get people reference that and whatnot, but it's just like the thing that rubs me the wrong way. I don't get upset about it. I'm just like, okay, it's your life, your brain, your body. Do whatever you got to do. But it's just the absolute certainty that people have. Maybe that's something I haven't experienced because I don't feel absolutely certain about even this fucking podcast. Like I don't even know how they know. They're so certain about this is the way it should be done, and that's the way it has to be.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get how you could be. I would, because it's like, what do I know? Like what me? Like what do I know? How should I know? And I think a lot of it, as someone who was there at one point, it was just I hadn't really been exposed to much else.
Well, let me ask you, because we just jumping into this conversation, obviously when there's the religious, spiritual aspect, did this all play the major role of you getting through or going through the grief of your mom? Like, was it heavily contemplating this topic, or were there other avenues? It was
a really hard time for me. It was I didn't have that at all, actually. So, like making jokes about it helped a lot. I got hired at Fox 6 months after, And so having that to throw myself into was really helpful. But also, I was just a mess. I was drinking way too much. I was a shit show. The guy that I thought I was going to marry, who was with me through all that, he broke up with me in front of my dad at Coney Island.
Oh,
Like,
nice. Okay.
and then he hung out
Did you get a hot dog
he
after?
hung out the rest of the day, actually. I got a hot dog before. He hung out the rest of the day. I mean, my mom, we broke up because my mom died, basically. I mean, I was a disaster.
You
He
just said
couldn't
that.
handle it. He never had a real problem. My life was suddenly super real. It just didn't work. But he broke up with me in front of my dad and then like hung out all day. It was weird. But I actually really wasn't handling it well. And I think that talking about it actually helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I became obsessed with talking about it.
Was it more the public talking about it, or do you have other outlets?
More public. Like I was going to open mics and talking about it on stage a little bit.
Nice.
And then also just, with my friends talking about it, posting. I posting about it. Like I remember the first Mother's Day after my mom died, I kind of just like hid away and I was uncomfortable. But the second one, I remember I posted a laundry basket and a bottle of Tide, and I was like, "Mom's dead, gonna do some laundry," and I just like laughed so hard. You know what I mean? Like thinking of the people's feeds where everyone's like out to brunch with their moms, and then like my mom's dead, and like just making people uncomfortable and laughing about that. That made me happy because then also in the comments, people are like, this is when people. So I always say dead. I say dead mom. I call her my dead mom. I don't say she passed away. I say dead, and I get people get mad at me for that. They're like, that's disrespectful.
Yeah, I got shit for the name of my podcast, Dead Talks. That was the whole point. It's like just put it in your face and was, guys, it's the word. We're dead. We're dying. We're dead.
Yes.
Like that's it. It's not insensitive. That is what it is. The passing away, the losing. Sometimes I catch myself slipping to say that. But part of me is like, I do the same thing. I try to get more refocused. But yeah, my dad's dead.
He's dead. My mom's dead. I'll say and I'll be like, my dead mom. Like that's insensitive. And it's like, imagine, so the way that I cope with it is this way. So imagine seeing yourself as the compassionate one for criticizing me for how I cope. That's not compassionate. No. And also, you're not mad because I said it. You're mad because you think about dead people for a second.
Yeah, it's on.
You're upset because I made you think about how everyone in your life is going to die, but like but they are.
Yeah, they are. That is the whole point.
Unless you die first.
Unless you die first. And I get it. It's wild.
Yeah.
It doesn't, again, I laugh about it all the time. I've made jokes for a very long time about it. It's how I process it. Some people think it's just a deflection. To me, it's not a deflection. No. That's me running into it.
Yes.
That's me confronting it, finding the humor, because I think this shit show of a life is just one dark comedy, in my opinion.
Of course.
I think anything could be laughed at, and I do have to tiptoe around certain people because I don't want to. I'm not here to insult you or make you feel bad, but sometimes it's ill-timed, and I've learned that. But at the end of the day, for me, it's like, I don't want to take it too seriously, and this is the one thing that we are all sharing, and the one thing we are all going to experience. And again, with you being in your field with politics and on Fox, you see the inherent divisiveness of things.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that all brings us together is death.
Yeah.
And the fact that we aren't comfortable talking about it. Other cultures are way more comfortable, which is fascinating itself. But I think the more you push it off, just like anything, when it does happen, it's just going to smack you across the face.
Yeah, it is. And people, nobody is helped by people will always freak out about what to say to you and stuff like that. And the experience of my mom's funeral was just so interesting. The fact that people, being in that by the casket where you're the person that's like receiving the line of people and watching people freak out about, and it's like, you know what? There's really nothing you could say that would be like a bigger deal than the dead body over here. Like, you know what I mean? So like, chill. Yeah. Just say, and that's why I always tell people, because people will ask me for advice. Like, what do you say? It's like, it doesn't matter. It really kind of doesn't, because there's no perfect words. And you're making it worse by then making me feel like I need to console you because you're uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't even have the perfect words. I'm very more like touchy-feely kind of guy. So I'm more of a hug, just being there. And I understand. I don't get, if someone says things that I don't personally wouldn't say, like they're in a better place. Or some things
it doesn't upset me either.
I don't. People get upset at that person. Like most people are just they don't know what to say. They're not doing it from a bad place. So I think if you're getting rubbed off by the way someone else is saying, it's just something you got to work out.
Yeah,
it might not be the time.
For me, I think the most helpful stuff has probably been just when somebody tells me a story or something, or like, I remember that one time when your mom did this, or people who are maybe like my mom's siblings will tell me a story that I never knew about her because I can still, even though she's not here, doesn't mean I can't learn new things. That kind of stuff is cool.
That's the best.
That's what I like. Or just people be like, that sucks, you know?
Yeah.
Or people, the worst is if I make a joke and people go, "Aw." It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, shut up. I made a joke because I wanted you to laugh, not because I want you to be like, no. Like you just ruined, now you made my day. Now, in addition to having a dead mom, I have to deal with my joke bombed.
You're going
like
to
my joke bombed now. Like on top of it, I bombed. Like, come on.
Yeah, but I think the humor for me is just, I don't know, it's just second nature. And I'm not saying my shit's funny, but
It doesn't have to be.
You know what I mean? It's just the timing of it. And I think that's the whole point. It's kind of not diluting it, but just take a breath.
Yeah.
Take a fucking breath. And it's not that it's serious, I guess. You know,
of course.
I don't want to say that. And it doesn't mitigate. Even if you talk about it, someone comes in this podcast, never experienced death. When it happens, it's still going to suck.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. To me, I'm getting all weird about it. It's just, this can't be it. I mean, I don't know. It could be it, but there's all this stuff is way too weird for me to think that we just live, die, and there's nothing else.
Yeah.
I truly believe, again, without absolute certainty, that something's going to happen after. I have ideas about what, not totally sure about it, but I think once we do cross over, if you will, we're going to like look back and maybe not in this body, but I'm like, oh, what the hell was this?
Yeah.
It's a real experience and it's beautiful. And like the feeling of being human, I think is so amazing to me. But I think we're just going to look back and it's all going to make sense.
Yeah. And it is ridiculous just when you are going through it, like in the throes of it, to think about, you see people just like walk around living their lives. It's crazy.
And that's part of it too. Like the way my mom handled, she kind of got us back in because she realized that the life keeps going. So the thing about, to me, is like, I heard one of my past guests say, is living and grieving. Like a lot of people just stop. And I'm not saying that, and back to what you were saying, we get this stigma of how we should do things. Like, and based on, when I always ask people, so am I doing it wrong? I'm like, why do you feel that way? What have you heard, or what is giving you the reason to feel like you're doing it wrong? And my understanding from that, it's not coming from you. It's coming from external people or external ways about you're supposed to grieve this way. I think grief is it's all the emotions rolled into one. It's complex. I don't think there's a right way, but I also think it's just what works for you. And maybe if you're drinking and getting shit-faced, like I'm not saying that's the right way, but maybe you got to go through that.
And I did. And
you got to go through it.
And I really like, I mean, I was just getting wasted. I mean, but I'm not doing that now. And I don't mean just because I'm pregnant. I mean, like I wasn't drinking like that. You know, it was like a year of getting wasted and crying and being an absolutely intolerable person to be around for like a year. And then that helped though. For whatever reason. And then that helped me a little bit. And then I was like, I didn't want to like hold myself back from that. I just was doing that. And then I was like, this isn't helping. And then I just stopped. And it's, you know, you'll go through phases. It wasn't like, that was like the acute phase of it. But even still, I mean, having had that experience of watching someone die and then there's nothing you can do and they're just dying and then they die. It's like, it makes everything else in life seem like a less big deal.
I don't know why that sounded so poetic.
No, but it does. It's like when people ask me if I get nervous to do certain things, it's like, I am very open. I do share a lot of things about myself. I do really put myself out there. I'm like, well, I'm gonna die anyway. Like, we're all dying. Everyone's dying.
That can go either way. To me, that doesn't sound, people think it's just morbid. I'm like, no, I think it goes.
It's freeing almost.
I think it's freeing. And it can go in either direction. We're gonna die anyway, and maybe just fuck off and just be a bad person. I don't see it like that. Maybe some people do. I don't know. Maybe, like, if this is it, then to me, it just makes you want to experience more. And then when shit hits the fan, maybe I'm like, all right, we're going to die anyway. So I'm going to be a blip on this radar. What does it really matter?
Yeah, it's not that serious.
But it does matter at the same time. Right. You know what I mean? It's like a weird balancing act.
It is a weird balancing act. And I haven't really figured it out yet. But I do think it's cool to talk about. That's just...
So 10 years later, how do you feel?
I mean, I don't have any more answers. And I think there's this, you know, like I said, with having a baby, there's this new thing where I think about her more. Like, I really don't want to get an epidural because she didn't. And I don't want her to be better than me.
Okay. So, a little competition never hurt.
Yeah. I'm like, I can't get, because then I'll be like, so I'm still competitive, I guess, with her, even though she's been dead for 10 years. And it is crazy to think that it's been that long. So I've explained it this way before because I wrote about it, that I am essentially preparing to become a mom for the first time when I don't remember what it's like to have one. Which, you know, it doesn't mean I don't remember her, but I don't remember what it's like to be like, I'm going to call my mom. It's like that's such a distant memory to me.
That's the weird part, because memories confuse me too. I was just talking about recently the last memory I have of my dad when he said goodbye, and I was 12 at that point, and I have an image of him waving to me and saying goodnight, and then as time passed, I'm saying to myself, was that the night before? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter, I guess, because I remember that being the last goodbye. But memories are especially during grief. Sometimes I'll remember something and it's like, no, Dave, that didn't happen. That was from Goodfellas. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, memories are just they're convoluted, and it's amazing to me how fast they disappear. And maybe I have shit memory. I don't know.
I write a lot, so I have a lot of. I mean, in both of my books, when I wrote about the experience, I was able to go back and find journals and things that I'd written, which was really helpful. Um, I mean, but some of the stuff I was really vividly remember. I mean, I remember she was in the hospital for like 3 weeks, or maybe actually less than that. And at the end, I mean, she made us all go to confession actually in the hospital. Isn't that
Really?
interesting? Which, like, they don't do that.
Did you have to confess in
So
front of her?
so she did last rites, and then she was done. And then she was like, I'm not even worried about myself anyway. She's like, I'm going to heaven. Like, I'm worried about them.
Wow.
And like me, my dad, and my brother, my sister. So she's like, I want you got them to do confession. And they were like, we don't do that here. And my mom was like, there's an open office right there. You can do it. And he did it. So like that's the last time I've been to confession was when my mom died. And I didn't do it. Like I went in there and I was like, I don't really believe in this.
So it's more going through the motions?
Yeah, but then that part I don't remember. I don't remember really being in. I remember him being like, you seem angry. And I was like, yeah, dude. Like, good eye, father. Yeah. Like I remember that, but I remember being like, I don't really believe in this, but like she wants me to be here. So I'm sure I've done a lot of shit. Like,
yeah,
I've done a lot of things. Like, where do I start? I haven't been to confession since I was, I don't know, like.
How does that make you feel? Because your mom clearly believed in it, especially, on her deathbed, if you will. But you were not so bought into it. So what was your perspective of your mom's decision to do that? It was just kind of like, you're happy for her kind of thing?
Well, it's because I also do understand her perspective, where it's like, if you really truly believe it, and you really truly believe that your daughter's going to go to hell forever, how could you not let that be a major sticking point?
Yeah.
Like, how could you not, you know what I mean? So, like, from my perspective, I'm like, can we please, it's not that it was all we talked about, but it was a huge sticking point. But that's a pretty big deal.
A little bit.
So, like, I do understand her perspective, and I don't judge her for it.
That's a weird thought, going like, you're about to die, and then you're like, I'm going to heaven with my daughter. I don't know.
Yeah. And everyone says I should have lied to her, and I didn't.
About what?
It's been like, I believe now. And everyone's like, why didn't you do that, you fucking idiot? Like, she would have felt so much better. And I'm like, I don't know.
I don't wonder how much that matters. That's a whole other question. It's like, when she passed away, that must not even matter. We're not going to have this.
Yeah. And I didn't. A lot of people are like, that's what you're supposed to do. I'm like, according to who?
Again, the supposed to word is like, everyone thinks I feel like we know shit. Even people that talk like they know things, I feel like we know nothing. And I don't know, it's just me kind of being drawl about it, but I just wonder how much it actually matters. Does that sound depressing?
No, it doesn't, because I agree. But I think to a lot of people, it does sound depressing.
Yeah. And I kind of got myself twisted a little bit there. It kind of sounded depressing the way I said it. But I don't know. But in regards to those last 3 weeks, was it just those religious conversations?
There were a few.
Or was there anything about, I'm leaving now? Or was there any kind of close conversations with that?
Not really. I mean, she was making jokes a lot.
But she was conscious. She was very there.
Yeah. She was completely there. She was not mentally gone at all. She was in a lot of pain, I think, and she didn't. So there was that. She was not afraid to die at all. It was just all a big joke. She was going to heaven. She was just worried about us, like not having a mom.
And that's why I think beliefs are a big part of it's important. I believe it's incredibly important, regardless of what you believe. I think because that does dictate, in my opinion, the way we do live our life. And in that case, I mean, what's more peaceful than that? If she's ready to go and due to her beliefs, she feels comfortable transitioning, that's amazing. But regardless of what team you play for, if you will, religion or beliefs you have, I do think it has a heavy implication of how we live our life. And I think that's the purpose of religion in many ways.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, no, I think it is. I mean, but I also, like, I do have a system of values. Like, I do have things I believe are right and wrong. A lot of people don't understand that. They're like, well, where does it come from if not God? I'm like, I don't want to hurt people. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to hurt people.
I hope. I mean, that's good to know.
But but for some people, they don't understand that if it doesn't come from God.
Yeah, no, I think it just comes from experience. Like, I'm trying to think, hypothetically, if religion didn't exist, if we didn't have no conceptualization of God, would there be no values in the world? You
Right.
don't think there's just human feeling? Like, I feel like before, I mean, again, God's always been around in spoken word, books, and thought, but it's like, isn't there just a human feeling when you do something? When I do something that maybe hurts someone, my initial personal thought isn't, I'm like, God told me this or thinks that. It's just, no, that doesn't, I felt like I did something wrong.
Yeah,
It's just like a
exactly.
human feeling. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it comes from God. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. But I don't personally feel the need to attach it always to God. But I believe in something. I don't know what that is, but there's got to be something that created this, right?
Yeah. And if anything, I should chill out more. Like, I always feel like people are mad. Like, I have a whole line of "Are you mad at me?" merch. Like, and I do think that probably maybe comes from like the fire and brimstone upbringing, perhaps.
I was saying a little bit of an influence. Yeah, you were
But
in it.
yes.
That's so
Hmm.
fascinating. And then you just,
Really. And then it's not anymore. But it's also, I feel like I've had to learn other coping mechanisms to get through things because I wasn't taught anything other than really religion.
what were the coping mechanisms outside of the same ones you mentioned, like talking, comedy?
Yeah, like talking, comedy. I mean, I'm in therapy. I'm sure everybody's shocked to hear that.
It's you're going to hell anyway,
I
right?
just texted him on the way over here. I mean, like,
You texted your
of
therapist?
course.
Is that,
If he couldn't text me, then I wouldn't have
so
one.
is that how, I don't have a therapist? I
No, I
probably
mean,
should,
he's
but
like, he actually tells me to calm down on the messages and like, if I need a session, I need a session. But I mean, therapy. It's not every week. It depends, like, kind of, sometimes I'll go every week. Sometimes I won't go at all. Sometimes it just kind of depends on things that are going on in my life. But I've had therapy, you know, for decades.
with many different therapists.
A few different, yeah. But I've had the same one since like 2016 now.
And how do you decipher what is the therapist that works for you?
Um, yeah, it's been hard. I've had a few that didn't. If I feel like they don't get it, or if I feel like they're not, I want someone who's not going to judge me.
Mm-hmm.
I want someone what I don't understand is people who lie to their therapist, because I'm like, this person I'm literally paying to shut the fuck up. Like, I can tell this person, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'll sue the shit out of this person if this gets out. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, yeah, they'll get 100%. They know that,
But
right?
you need it. I mean, or you'll exhaust everyone in your life with your shit. I mean, because your friends are not your friends can be a support system, but they shouldn't be your entire. If you're becoming to need to take too much, you need to talk to someone else.
Well, also talking to your friends can be great, but at the same time, I think for them it's coming through a biased lens too. So it's good to have that non-biased thing. And also, even though I have a podcast that talks about it, I try to keep it mostly positive for the most part. But I don't like. Sometimes I have these conversations. I try to make it focus. Okay, this happened. Give me the shit. Give me the fucking the crappy stuff. But then, like, what from there? I feel like it's important to vent. But I think I hear some people, especially people that talk to me sometimes, not so much in my circle because those wouldn't be my friends for the most part. But it's just complaining, venting, venting, venting. I think too much venting is bad. I think it keeps you there. I think
Yes.
now you're just stewing in the negative, but it's like, I try to think more solution based. Like I heard another guy talking, it's like in my office, my team, we do 2 minutes of just get it out. And then after that 2 minutes, what's the
That's
solution?
exactly what I love about my therapist. He's very solutions oriented.
And that's so important. I think the constant, even listen to shows like this, I hope mine doesn't come off like that. It's usually, what worked? No, whatever. Like, tell me some stuff. But it's the constant stewing that I think people do that for so long. I think that's why
They can
people
stay
get
stuck in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen that. I have like friends, family that never got over it. And you don't get over it, whatever words, semantics, but we do have a choice, and it comes down to us. And I feel like that's what I don't know the therapy world, but I feel like a therapy allows you to make the realizations, and ultimately you're making the decision.
Exactly.
And that's otherwise, if you're not going to make the decision, you're going to stay where you are.
Exactly. I have a question for you, actually.
I mean,
Do you find it difficult to connect with people who have never had any kind of trauma in their life because your dad died in 9/11 when you were 12?
Thank you for reminding me. Here we are, right outside the spot where my father died. We're in New York City, baby. I'm comfortable talking to anyone. Like I'll make it work. I'm very devil's advocate. I'm very.
But connecting with people.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yes. I do have trouble with that, and I'm fine with that. But truly connecting, yeah, I feel like even I definitely have a history. I feel like of girls that I've ended up liking and dating that have shared some trauma, and maybe there's a trauma bond there, which might not always be the healthiest thing. But yeah, I think it's just a different way of seeing the world. And I think everyone's had their traumas. It is different types of trauma, and it's just the hardest thing you've ever gone through is the hardest thing you've ever gone through. But I do connect deeper, and most of my friends have have handled things, because I feel like those people that have had to go through some things just have a different view of the world that relates to me.
I agree. I tell my husband all the time that I would not be attracted to him, and I mean that in every sense of the word. Like we could not be close, anything, if he didn't go. He was in Afghanistan.
Wow.
And I like shooting, being shot at, death in your face. I couldn't if he's otherwise he's a Westchester prep schoolboy with like a functioning like normal family. I mean, like I don't even think there's any like not even a touch of mental illness. And this is such a normal, well-adjusted family where everybody's alive, nobody's divorced. Everybody like I would be like, like you know. I couldn't. How would I talk to you? And this idiot decided to go to Afghanistan for like and I told him on our first date, I was like, I think the war that you fought in was bullshit. And then he was, because I didn't really like him, I was kind of like, ugh. Like my sister convinced me to go out with him, and then he was like, as somebody who was over there, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, and then we really connected and stuff. But if he hadn't willingly he went to West Point and then willingly like. I'm like, why'd you go to war? You had your whole you had every advantage in the world, and you're going to Afghanistan to fight a war. Like, why did you do that?
In that war?
But if you but I that's what I said on our first date. 'Cause I was like, I didn't care. I didn't really like him, and I just was like, I'll never see this person again. So let's have some fun. And now I have his baby in my body, so things happen. But I told him I'm like, I would never connect with you, because that was something for me too, where I was like, that's why I called an island guy. Like he was right to dump me. Like there was no connection there anymore.
Yeah. Neither. I feel like it is a balancing act of, like I said, trauma bond. That's sometimes not. That's not. I don't want to bond over not bond.
That's not trauma bond. I thought is when you are in a bad relationship and you bond over the trauma of the relationship.
Oh my God, have I been wrong this entire time about what trauma bond means?
Yeah.
I thought it was like my dad died, your dad died. We've had traumas and we're bonding over.
It's usually like when you have a shared trauma of like. This relationship is traumatic, and it becomes. Dr. Drew explained it to me this way, because I also was in a relationship with a guy that was like horrifically abusive, mentally, emotionally, even physically. Sometimes I write about that in my second book too, and Dr. Drew explained it to me as like a cult of two people, where it's like this we can't, because the relationship gets so insane. The things it's like a frog in the pot of boiling water. The things you start to accept get so insane that you can't like share it with people, because you're like, well, then they're not gonna like him. Yeah, they shouldn't. He's fucking like pushed you and threw you in a wall. Like you shouldn't, whatever. But you you can't tell people that.
Yeah.
So then it becomes just you and this guy who know this, and then you become you're bonded over the trauma of the relationship.
I've been wrong this whole time. There's just two fucked up people getting to know each other.
No, it's like you have to be you can't. I have nothing to say. I'm like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah, no, I have a very hard time just talking about stuff. I can't talk about.
I ask people regularly when I had my first conversation with them, are both your parents still alive? And then I'll also be like, could your family afford to send you to college? And I'll also be like I'll ask these questions because I'm amazing. Like, who am I talking to?
Yeah, I don't care how many your siblings later. I don't really care right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is anyone in your family dead? Yeah. I will do that because I'm like, I don't, and when they get uncomfortable, I'm like, okay, well, not yet, I guess. But
what is this talk? It's like, what is that disdain for talking about the real stuff in life? It's just avoiding? Why?
It's avoiding.
Because it's bringing up pain. And my thought is, if it's bringing up pain, that's pain that needs to be brought up.
So I wrote about this in the first book. So do you watch Seinfeld?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I figure I just kind of
in the background.
So you know how when George knows the girl's gonna break up with him, and so he just avoids her, and he's like, if I never see her, she can't break up with me. Yeah. And it's ridiculous, and we all laugh because okay, but that doesn't change it. You're still not gonna ever see her again, whether you're still you're not to get. It's the same way we are with death. I think it's like that. If we don't talk about it, then 100%.
I think that goes. It's literally getting it out, and then the more you talk about it, the more. So when my dad passed away, died, dead, he obviously 9/11, towers, blah, blah, blah. I accidentally went through exposure therapy. And maybe you have to correct me again because I had trauma bond all wrong. Maybe I have exposure therapy wrong. But I would constantly watch the footage over. No,
that's exposure therapy. Yeah. Well, you had no choice to.
My whole life's been a lie. If I got that wrong.
You had no idea. You had no choice but to watch the footage.
Well, no, I did, because my mom, for instance, I think she only saw it go down once in 20 years, never saw it again. She avoided it. From my understanding, Mom fact checked me on that, but I'm almost positive. Me, I was a sociopath that kept watching it, especially every anniversary for years. I'd be looking for new angles. I'd be watching the footage over and over just to get feeling out and just to watch it and put myself there, I'm wishing I was there, yada, yada, yada. But I think I accidentally put myself through exposure therapy that ended up being a good thing.
Yeah.
I put myself there, and then now I faced it. And from my understanding with exposure therapy, it's going to the place of the trauma or whatever you want to call it, and feeling it and exposing yourself to it. And I think that's the same. I think that mechanism worked the best for me, and that's how I feel like I handle things now.
No, and I think that probably did, because in your situation, there's really no way to avoid it. Like, you can't, you just throw your phone in a river once a year. Like, you can't.
I had a fly here. It's not running through my head accidentally.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, never forget. And you're like, can I fucking please for 2 seconds?
I know. I think about it. I'm so just for 2 seconds. Why is it never forget? I'm not going to, shit. I'm not going to forget that.
Yeah, but like, I do think, I mean, because you open your phone and everyone's like, think of everyone that blah, blah, blah. You're probably like, well, now I am thinking about it.
Yeah, one anniversary. It's never going to happen. One time, like, I just hope I don't get one text. I'm so grateful for the text I get. Like, my support system is ridiculous. It doesn't, yada, yada, yada. But it's,
that's true. Because for me, it's like people will text me, but it's like the people in my life who remembered that it was November 5th.
Yeah.
9/11 is not hard to remember.
No, it's still, even the 9/11 has a nice ring to it, though. I was thinking if it was one day later, like 9/12, it doesn't have the same ring to it.
I had actually, at one of my, this is completely off topic, but one of my, like on my live shows, I do talk a lot. A lot of my jokes are about trauma and about darkness and stuff. So people at meet and greets will feel really comfortable sometimes telling me like traumatic stuff or funny stuff that's dark. And this couple said that they met, they were an ER nurse and like an EMT. So they met just like watching people like sometimes die, like often die and whatever. And they're like, yeah, we've been married for our anniversary's coming up. They're like, yeah. They're like, 911's a really cute anniversary for people who met in the ER until it became 9/11. So now their anniversary's on 9/11, and everybody's probably like, you sick fuck. Like how many, like, did you, like, did you really was saving like a couple bucks on the banquet hall really worth it to your anniversary's 9/11? But it wasn't, it was 911 because it was like, we met in the ER. That's like kind of cute. But
it was cute, I guess.
And now it's like, it's not 911 anymore. It's 9/11.
And I found out that 9/11 is the cheapest day to fly.
Really? People are still.
I mean, that's ridiculous to me. But if anything, I'm like, I'm going to fly out every 9/11 now.
Yeah.
Let's get off my back.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No, I feel like, is there anything? I feel like I pretty much, anything
you want to get off your chest?
No, I feel like I've gotten a lot off my chest. I feel like like, when you asked me at the beginning of this, like, anything you don't want to talk about, I'm like,
yeah, I had a feeling. It's just protocol. It's just protocol.
I mean, I know, but I put that to bed a long time ago. Yeah,
I don't know how you do it. I mean, obviously this show's growing and whatnot, but you are really, like, you put yourself out there, and it's just, I feel like people forget that. Like, to me, when people put them, regardless of their opinions, if I disagree, I'm, again, devil's advocate. I'm fine. I specifically like talking to people that have different views. A lot of my friends, we see a line, but we disagree. I just really don't think people take it too lightly that someone's putting themselves out there, regardless if you disagree. Like this motherfucker, whether it's comedy, whether it's on the news, they're still putting themselves out there, which is courageous in one way, and then you're just in the background judging someone. Like, it was interesting to talk to you again, because I think the perception of Fox News, they assume you're this person. And that doesn't seem.
And then you'd watch this, and you'd be like, "Really?"
We don't have to. Well, this isn't a political show. I'm not bringing it up for that reason. But it's just, again, back to the conversation of death. There's the one equalizer, the one thing, regardless of what team, what side you on. I'm sticking to the theme of your book about the binary aspect of seeing things. It's just, yes, there are things that people on one side, people on the other. But this conversation of going through things and going through this life, that's the one thing I think unifies us.
Yeah, and I do get that a lot, by the way. It's like people, I always, when I do my live shows, when I do my stand-up shows, I always have like the theater, if they don't know who I am, I always get treated differently before and after they see it. During the show, every time my team tells me, people from the staff are like, she works there? Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, I do, actually. And also, I've never, I enjoy it. Yeah. It's like, I am different than what you'd think, or what a lot of things, people that you see on the air there. But I think that's a good thing.
I think so too. And even like, I don't really, I keep my energy in certain areas, my focus in different things. But even when I hear something on the news or whatnot that I completely disagree with, my thought isn't what that person's feeling. Like, what are they like if we were just in the back of a room talking?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what's what anymore, but it's cool to actually talk to you and just, we just talk about death and some real shit. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I know we just met. I really appreciate your time and the opportunity to get this on.
I thought it was great, so thank you for having me.
Of course. And then you want to, I'll put everyone that's watching or listening, wherever you're getting it, I'm going to put the link to find you, Kat, and then your book and whatnot. Is there anything you want to plug or talk about the book?
Well,
or anything?
sadly, because this baby is really cramping my style in terms of tour, like I am having a baby, so I'm going to have to hang out with it for a little bit. So I'm not going to be on tour till next fall. But yeah, my books. Get my books.
Yeah, all the links are going to be in the show, so if you all want to pick it up, do that. I'm not making money on that.
There's even more funny, like scandalous, wild stories in the books.
Scandalous stories?
Of course. I mean, I just exposed myself. So
Godspeed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, y'all, thank you for tuning in. And next time, Dead Talks. Peace out. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dead Talks. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell. That'll give you updates as to when we post a new video, more episodes, and more content in general. We are streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all that. And also find us on Instagram at Dead Talks Podcast or www.deadtalks.net. Thank you so much.